We not sharing blunts. We not sharing no mouth to mouth, nothing. Don't breathe near me. Don't think near me. Like if we can't do it
Can we
virtually,
read next to you? Can I read next to you? Not even J. Cole can read next to you?
Now J. Cole will have to read first.
He said he won't. He won't. Like
He won't. So it's giving.
Oh God! So
minimal, like no exposure.
No whatsoever.
Low risk.
I don't want to share this with y'all.
Y'all niggas are fucking everywhere. Like, I don't want to share this with y'all.
I got tons of soul on my true collectible. Famous, so famous, #1 desirable. I do what I want when I want and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air. That's how I roll. So royal. This is me, I'm so royal.
She ready. She ready.
Now.
She's not ready. She's not ready. What is going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of It's in the Middle. Yay!
Hey.
Today we have a special guest joining us for the first time, Zalika.
Hey, y'all.
Hey! We are so excited to have you here. We've been doing this thing where we invite guests and stuff. So Zalika is here because we got a couple of things to pick her brain with and get into some conversations to some things. I would ask about the mental check-in, but I didn't do a good job of that last week because y'all shut me the fuck down.
I mean, last week was a time.
It was. It's hard to believe that was just like a week ago.
I mean, we were coming into Monday, and I had been thoroughly beat the fuck down by what happened in Atlanta and the news of Toy and Salau earlier that morning. I mean, it really had taken the wind out of my wings. So I came into this just ready to unload and have a space to talk through healing with my folks. So, you know.
Absolutely. So how we I guess the energy is different. Y'all are better than me. Like this weekend was a lot for me. It was a lot. I got tested for COVID-19 today. I had to do the test myself. I really did not want to. Like I really didn't. Like I did her and I was like, girl, I don't know about this one. I was about to say, okay, girl, you know what? I tried it. That's enough. I'm just gonna go ahead and like.
Enough.
I was like, that's enough. It's a wrap. Cut the cameras. But did it because I didn't know you did both nostrils.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
well, they can do just one, but they have to stay in longer if you do only one nostril. That's what happened for me, girl.
I'm too much of a baby. Like, I get the flu test and cry all the time. Like, every time I have the flu and I go to the doctor for a test, I ask, like, can y'all draw blood? Like, I swear I would rather have. I know it's.
I've never had a flu test that wasn't drawn blood.
No, my flu tests are always what they're doing for COVID. They put the cotton swab down your nose and then they bring it out and they let you know you have the flu in like an hour or so.
What's the test they do with they tap in your throat?
I do the flu test through my nose.
That's for strep throat.
That's strep, yeah.
That's strep. Yeah.
Okay, I don't like her either.
I don't like her either.
Now I can do things in my. Never mind.
Now, T. Now let's be clear. I can too. Now let's.
If something down the throat ain't that big of a deal, but down my nose.
Now something down the throat. It's a big deal because it's just.
I bet it is a big deal.
It's maybe now this not giving no. Let's have a sex talk.
Y'all freaking asses already got into the conversation.
That's the additional part. That's the third part.
Now there you go. Now high key, we could do that because that's Zalika's.
Absolutely.
Oh, I saw yesterday.
We get into some John theory.
Absolutely.
Girl, coming to arrest y'all asses because y'all is doing absolutely the most. But is this in the middle after dark?
Now it very well could be. Now I'm gonna just say it's been about 6 months for me.
Nah, but y'all know the timeline. Like the after dark is at 9 a.m. and 10.
No, literally. There is no after dark at this point. At this point, you show up and do what you're gonna do. At whatever.
It's been a minute since Deshaun has participated in after dark. But you was cutting up for a minute.
Deshaun has a separate account now for after dark teas.
Come on now.
Well, I'm glad that you transitioned that shit over there.
Girl, you just be so mad because it's not in your phone, girl. And if you just would ask, girl, I could let you have it.
Bro, you're not gonna get me in no trouble, honey.
Love news.
Anyway, we gonna stay on because y'all turning this train into something else. And I'm trying to stop. But other than that, the test, I was exposed to COVID-19. One of my friends who in my very, very small circle who I've been hanging out with, he tested positive. His two other folks in the household tested positive too. So immediately when I found out that, I am pissed at him because he started having symptoms Monday. I saw him Sunday.
Oh shit.
So sis didn't tell me till Wednesday that she was like, she was out here doing all these things. And I'm like, girl, you should have said something to me. So I've been quarantined. I've been in the house. I've not done anything but stay in the house, which made me want to take all of my energy and throw a Goku style like Kaioken blast or something to these folks upstairs.
Right.
I was really about to tell y'all, look, for y'all hoes who don't think I need to call the police, I need y'all to round up some of y'all community folks before I call. I do not want to call APD. I need somebody to come up here and handle this because it is driving me crazy. So that kind of like that whole thing with my neighbor. I wrote a thread about it on Twitter. If y'all want to check it out. But it was just noise on top of noise, like all day long, like Saturday and Sunday. It's been going on for months, but this weekend was the breaking point for me. Like I literally just lost it all. Like I didn't get any rest or something. So I'm here in community getting healing, like T said. So being in space with y'all is making me feel good. Other than that, my weekend was trash. But Zalika, how was your weekend? You had I saw y'all. You went to home for Father's Day and stuff.
Yeah, I did. So I spent it with my father. And then also yesterday morning, I was just with my spiritual community. So we did like a social distance Misa ceremony. It was great. I felt lighter. I feel good. So it was nice. It was really nice. And before that, I was just in the house. I don't usually go out, y'all. I stay inside the house.
Really?
Yeah, well, I'm a hypochondriac, like a literal one, not even on a fake one, on a fake thing. So it's very hard to like get out of the house every day and not think the worst. So
okay, I'm a homebody, so I didn't mind when COVID first started, but now it's just like I need to get out of here. It's been like a couple of months now. I need to take a little trip. But now since I've been exposed, I can't even just take a trip and just say I'm finna go somewhere for the weekend because I got to wait and see what the test results and like all that. Mm-hmm. But T, what did you get into this weekend? Did you go see your daddy?
No, my daddy went on a vacation with my mama for Father's Day, but it's fine. You know, yeah, fine. No, but this weekend I really took some time to unplug and recenter and, you know, sort of start to unmap my life. So as I mentioned last week, I did resign from my fellowship, and I am overwhelmed with the amount of support that has come both from this platform and my Twitter platform, my community in general, not just the financial support, but like all the affirmation that I've received. And it really moved me because this past week was Juneteenth week. And, you know, I try to find ways to find some joy in the non-event of emancipation and how do we honor our own individual emancipations. And so I resigned from my position and I started to see a few more Black folks like legit quit their jobs, reduce their hours, or, you know, work in a way that works for them, refuse to go into an in-person job, even though things have relaxed. And I just think me doing that was me holding myself accountable to what I was no longer willing or able to give to the space that I was working based off of our political differences, but also that radical shift to my work is with this community and in these streets. And it's my accountability also to my organizing community, my city, and everything to give what I have to this work. And so to have that many folks support me, like this weekend, I did normal Taurus things and I took some of the, you know, the support I got and bought some of my creature comforts, some of my favorite liquor. I ordered some good food. Even, you know, I bought Miss Juneteenth to stream, which it's pretty good so far. I haven't finished it. So I just did a lot of internal like self-care, and I'm like, how can I model these things in my life sustainably and still do this work. And it's coming together beautifully. I don't put myself on a deadline or a timeline anymore, and that's been great.
Yes, well, we love that for you, and shout out to all the people that reached out via comments and everywhere and supported T. Some of y'all was being a little rude though, but we ain't gonna say no names. I had to like, girl, we ain't doing that over here, honey. We gonna be respectful of our folks and what they doing. It was just a couple of comments. It was actually a troll, a Hotep troll that did that, and they had 2 YouTube accounts, and I was like, what is this? And then girl blocked. But Deshawn, how are you doing this weekend compared to last weekend? Because you was
out of it last weekend. Yeah, last weekend was hard. This weekend was great. I took a much needed break from everything that was happening, because for the last 3 weeks I've been like nonstop working 15, 16-hour days, like organizing stuff. So my body, like, and my mind and my spirit really needed a moment away from everything. So, this weekend I was in the house. I washed my clothes and I washed my hair. I cleaned up my apartment. I was watching a bunch of Netflix that I wanted to catch up on, just doing like my own little thing. I wrote some more for my book. I did some more reading, like just different things that I have been wanting to do that I wasn't able to get done because of all the stuff moving. Because now, Atlanta is moving into our 4th week of protests. I know the media is not covering it like it was when it first started, but we're a month in now. And so I know that there's a lot coming up, and I knew that I needed to rejuvenate before I get to that moment, because otherwise I would be unwell. So yeah, like I'm here now, and I'm like feeling really good, and feeling excited about so many different things. Feeling excited about life, which I was not last weekend, because baby, last weekend is, for those who don't know, is when I was out more directly on the ground.
Right.
And that was a lot. So yeah, I feel good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Because I need y'all right now. Because baby, not even just the thing with the noise and stuff. It's just a lot of family drama I'm dealing with, and girl, I just feel like I just need a breather and a break. But I'm putting on my game face and trying to push through it. But this is normally the weekend is when I take a break. So I'm going into the work week, because my work week actually starts Tuesday, producing content. So I'm like, girl, the weekend I'm supposed to be resting, I ain't get a chance to. So, but luckily this is the end of the month. So the first week of the month, I might take a vacation for a whole week. I don't know. The only thing that y'all might be in the middle. That's it. Y'all don't get nothing else from me. I'm done.
I want to tell you y'all.
I won't nobody.
People go back and catch up on the shows they missed. So go back and the content.
I definitely believe in breaks. I don't mass produce content like that. I do not do that. But yeah, there was a couple of things that happened this week. But we're gonna get into some necessary things. Okay, Zalika making that face because girl, we were hit back to back.
It was
back to back. Me and Drizzy laughed at that.
Did y'all see the cute video of what is her name? Baby pushing her off. I can't.
Oh, Remy's baby.
Yeah. That was so cute to me. That was so adorable to me. I was like, girl, you better recognize who your mommy.
Okay. she might shoot you over a stack, baby. No, I love Remy. Remy, I love you, girl.
It's too late. The hit is out.
They look really happy though. Remy, Papoose, and the baby. They look really happy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for them. It was a beautiful thing. But we dealt with some drama. Well, I wouldn't even necessarily call it some drama, but J. Cole really got in his feelings last week. So for those who do not know, J. Cole dropped a song and was taking shots at a particular person. I don't think Drake didn't mention, not Drake, J. Cole, he didn't mention, they both about the same, honestly.
I was about to say, honestly, Drake.
Pretty
Cole,
They're the same. It's like that. I want to talk about that too. Like this, they seem as nice, but they're still very much like
benevolent sexism.
Yes,
absolutely.
Very much benevolent sexist in that they package themselves as these nice guys, these people who are respectful of women, who care about politics, who care about all the things, but they are inadvertently and very like publicly like misogynist and sexist.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But like J. Cole dropped a whole song out of nowhere. Last time he released a song was I think in 2019, in like the middle of 2019 or something, to address No Name
randomly
because of a tweet that she posted about black rappers. You know, y'all been talking this stuff. Where y'all at? Like, pull up, sis. What's the tea? And J. Cole got in his feelings and produced a whole song.
And it wasn't even good. Like,
I could see if it was like a good diss. But
did we like the beat?
No, I mean, it wasn't a good song. It was like No Name song. Well, I'm not gonna drag it, but it wasn't a good song. It wasn't a good song.
It wasn't doing well.
It wasn't doing well. Like, it wasn't doing that much numbers. So why would I waste my time?
It was a similar production to the other ones too, though. You know, that slow sample, the slowed down sample.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I'm gonna get you centered with
right.
my vibes. It was nothing.
The thing about the song for me was that it didn't feel like it was supposed to do anything. Like, I know that he kept trying to say, well, you know, I'm trying to like engage this dialogue or I'm like trying to work through what my feelings are. You know, his fans are deeply misogynistic, so they kept trying to find ways to justify what he was doing. But the song literally offered nothing. It didn't do anything for anything, right? And like for that to be his response to her critique, which was y'all's favorite male black rappers are out here talking consistently about race and all these things, and y'all are posturing them as these black leaders of the movement, like, and now in the midst of black folks dying repeatedly, like back to back, they're not saying shit. I took it as a tweet. I didn't even think about J. Cole, to be honest, because I don't think of J. Cole as some woke nigga. I don't think of none of these niggas as woke niggas. Not Kendrick, not Cole, not Wale. And I like Wale's music way better than I like Kendrick and Cole's. But like, I don't think of none of them as these woke niggas who just are just so prominent and whose insight I'm looking for, right? Mm-hmm. I know y'all niggas don't read. Y'all don't read what I'm reading. So like, I'm not interested in y'all's opinion about anything, but they're postured that way. So when she tweeted that, I was like, hell yeah, like y'all should have something to say, something to offer. The people who are doing the most right now in this moment are the black women artists who really are always shitting on because they're talking about sexuality and being promiscuous and that type of thing, right? So now in this moment, they're the ones that we're looking to, you know, Kehlani and Cardi B and all these, like, No Name, even though she's not sexualized, but No Name has been at the forefront, like all these black women who are being very clear about their own politic and why they care about black folks, and the niggas who are set up to be these woke leaders ain't saying shit.
It's interesting too, because you have a person like No Name where, like, to your point, Deshaun, so many people were posturing her as this like respectable young black queen figure. And these same people who are like posturing her that way are the same people who have their foot on her neck.
Literally.
Yeah.
And plus, it's also with this song, it's like hers was only about a minute long, but his might have been longer, but it was filler. It was instrumental filler. So, I don't know.
I think the song was like 3 minutes long, was it? Like
it's 3 minutes and 56 seconds, and I have the lyrics pulled up here off Genius because I just
come on, T with the seats and the
for me, it was the way J. Cole opened up this entire song was triggering for me as a queer femme who is read as woman, who recently came out as non-binary. Most folks know me to be woman, but just, you know, how misogyny works, especially in community and especially in learning community. Mm-hmm. And Deshaun and Zalika, y'all probably can definitely relate to this, but it's like, when you are a queer person, when you are a woman, when you are femme, you know, anything other than cishet man, there's a certain unspoken decorum that goes in like a lot of Black-led organizing spaces that are, you know, it may be focused on community, but that hierarchy of patriarchy is just like shoved down your throat. And it's like, you know, young folks, women, queer folks don't really have a say-so. They don't really get the opportunity to facilitate a space in a way that's affirming for us. And then whatever points we make, it's always up for critique in a way that, absolutely, you know, it's not for the man or the more masculinist individual. And in a lot of ways that holds back a lot of the work that needs to be pushed, because it's like, then it's on us, the folks who do get harassed and triggered, to then do the other work of bringing the masculine folks and the men to heal, sit down. This is how you're harmful. Are you gonna take accountability for that? Are we gonna make sure this doesn't happen again? And, you know, it's a cycle that perpetuates. And so when he opened the song up with niggas be thinking I'm deep, intelligent, fooled by my college degree, my IQ is average, there's a young lady out there, she's way smarter than me. I scrolled through her timeline in these wild times and I started to read. She mad at these crackers, she mad at these capitalists, mad at these murder police. She mad at my niggas, she mad at our ignorance. She wear her heart on her sleeve. She mad at the celebrities, low-key I be thinking she talking about me. Now I ain't no dummy to think I'm above criticism, so when I see something that's valid, I listen. But shit, it's something about the queen tone that's bothering me. She strike me as somebody blessed enough to grow up in a conscious environment with parents who know about the struggle for liberation, and in turn, they provide her with a perspective and awareness of the system and unfairness that afflicts them, and the clearest understanding of what we got to do to get free. And the frustration that fills her words seems to come from the fact that most people don't see, just because you woke and I'm not, that shit ain't no reason to talk like you better than me. Now, in all of that, he never credited her for any sort of learning that she may have done on her own, any sort of intellectual journey. Right. He didn't recognize her labor. It takes a lot of fucking labor to do the work that No Name does, even prior to her, you know, staunch stance on being anti-capitalist. She took her online dragging and dead ass started a fucking decolonial, anti-capitalist, Black-led book club to bring other folks along with her. And like most cishet men do in these spaces, in the woke spaces, or when you give them that moniker, they won't take your intelligence for intelligence. There's got to be some other exposure that you had to get you to this point. Right. And then they make themselves legible through propping you up for all these things that you may or may not be. And so everything from his tone, his calling her a queen, his assumption that she was raised a certain way. I got the politics that I got, and I was raised by Black capitalists. Oh. But, you know, and so I'm like, if somebody were to come at me in that way, then it's like your first line of defense is, well, I'm going to show my degrees and I'm going to show my book list. And it's just like requiring more and more and more labor of the feminine person, of the woman, to justify why she does the work that she does, pushes what she pushes. And in none of that does he affirm her nor say, let me get down with you. Let me actually see what you're talking about. He don't even say he tried to decipher what she said. He just took it like, damn, I want to know what she's saying, but clearly she dragging me and my niggas. And it will require deeper reading for me to understand where she's coming from. So I'm gonna just drag. And so I've been hot about it for a lot more reasons than just like my former, I don't even consider myself like a J. Cole fan like that, but he is a rapper that I was like, if I want to listen to lyrical content, I'll get into. But I really fuck with No Name. But in no way was this a standoff. It was a, wow, this is where you're at, and where you're at is where a lot of men are.
When I heard the song, it literally sounded like I was back in middle school listening to some niggas just rapping at the table about some girl they couldn't get their number or something. There was nothing it was just very basic. Like, girl, clearly you're in your feelings. And not one time did No Name said that she was talking about J. Cole.
She never did.
Not one time. Not one time. I think she even deleted the tweet.
She did. She deleted it. It to me, there's something that's so something here about this really makes me want to sit with why what it is that J. Cole and cishet men in general struggle with about their insecurities that won't allow them to name an insecurity instead of projecting onto the women and other like otherwise queer folk that are challenging them. And of course, we all know it's the toxic masculinity and the hegemonic masculinity and the misogynoir and all the things. But more deeply than that, it really feels like there is something particular about how he moved in that moment, right, where there was no thought, no level of care for No Name, for what she has maybe processed to get to that point. Like a lot like what T was saying, I really appreciate that point, T, because I think so many folks online rightfully were really focused on the queen tone part. Mm-hmm. But the part for me that really stuck with me was him making the assumption that she was raised in a home where she was spoon-fed this knowledge, right? There's no way this Black woman has done the reading, has done the studying, has done the care work to get the information that she wants, even though she has less access to me because she's not as nearly as mainstream of a rapper as J. Cole is, right? So, and she's not a man, she's not a cishet man at that. So despite her having less privilege, less access to me, I'm going to make the assumption that she hasn't done the work, that she hasn't done the reading, that she hasn't done what's required of her to obtain that information, even though I know for a fact that I haven't done the work, that I haven't done the reading. And instead of sitting and listening because I know I don't know what I'm talking about, I would prefer to project onto this person who has done the reading, because I'm the proclaimed leader. I've been set up to be this leader. I've been put on this pedestal that makes me a leader. Right. And there's no way that this woman, this Black woman, is going to come in from her rich home, her rich background, and her family who's conscious, who has given her all this information, and snatch this from me when I grew up in a hard life. Like, nigga, maybe you did. You grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, though. She grew up in Chicago, right? So like the way that you two were raised, I'm willing to bet was vastly different as a nigga who grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina, right? Like, yeah, I grew up in the hood. Yeah, I come from the hood. Like, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be like a nigga from the hood. But I also know that it's a very different reality for a Black woman in Chicago than it is for a Black cishet nigga in Fayetteville, North Carolina, right? So, like, I wouldn't even assume that she was raised with parents who were quote unquote conscious, right? Just because she like has this knowledge. In fact, I don't assume that anyone that has the knowledge that we do was raised with parents that gave them that. Because in my experience, all the niggas that I went to college with, all the niggas that I know now that I organize with, that I move with, didn't get raised in homes with parents that taught them this shit. We learned this shit on our own.
And it's
how socialization works.
And I just want to add just a small point to that, because that is the point. A lot of us come to radical thought in this work because of the trauma that we've experienced in our lives before this point.
Exactly.
Pre-college and during. Right. A lot of us are, content warning, trigger warning. A lot of us are, sexual assault survivors. A lot of us are, grew up in homophobic, transphobic households in those families and in those societies. And so wouldn't you think, like, somebody who's experienced that type of persecution, or maybe not, but just navigating this world in a Black body, in a Black femme body, in an unruly body, and being read as such, is enough for you to experience enough pain and torment to maybe want to crack open a book and say, hey, what is somebody who's experienced this too? What the fuck they talking about? Maybe it's some theory that can back why y'all hate me so much, why I'm incapable of learning, why my labor is not valid, and why at the end of the day, you're willing to read my timeline, take it as a direct shot to you and your niggas. And instead of you protecting me and engaging me in a way that's careful, you choose to put the flag up and ride for your niggas and say, maybe I shouldn't be speaking this way or coming for y'all in this way. And you engage me like as it's some sort of battle or war, instead of extending community to me and wanting to sit with me. Right. So those very same violences that he calls himself calling out and critiquing are the very reasons that would drive somebody from No Name's experience to actually read a fucking book.
Right. Now, here's the thing about this whole thing. So even if, let's just say, No Name did grow up in this sort of conscious household that he speaks of, there are plenty of people who grew up in Afrocentric households. Right. And there was no political education happening about gender, right, or queerness or any of those kinds of things. I guarantee you, they were sometimes violent spaces for a lot of people. My granddaddy, I love him. I grew up in a very Christian household. My grandfather was more Afrocentric and a little no-teppy. These were not the conversations that we were having. You know, with me, you know, being a little black girl, a little black queer girl, that people weren't even like paying attention to the signs. You know what I'm saying? But there's something that J. Cole is doing. And I think that based on what you all are saying, J. Cole knows that he's lying about quite a few things. One, I'm pretty sure y'all are both rappers and y'all both are in communication. I'm sure that you two probably even have each other's numbers, right? So you, to a certain extent, have some sort of familiarity with No Name's background. Additionally, I'm not buying this argument completely and fully that J. Cole hasn't done any of the readings, because I've watched countless interviews of him talking about him doing the readings. Not only just the fact that he's had these interviews, one of the things that I've also noticed that he did, and could you read that opening line again, T, about the IQ?
Yeah, let me, he said, niggas be thinking I'm deep, intelligent, fooled by my college degree. My IQ is average. There's a young lady out there. She way smarter than me.
So you use scientific racist tropes.
Come on.
To talk about measures of intelligence, right? So let's rewind. This is the same brother, you know, literally mixtape. The intro of the song was too deep for the intro. Mm-hmm. You know, he used the Didn't You Know sample and everybody was like blown the fuck away, right? Yeah. And I remember hearing this because there was a lot of guys in the conscious community was like, you don't like Cole? You need to listen to this shit. I was not impressed, right? But then to take it a step further, you have other songs that he's done where it's been a mixture of him talking about having sex with Tia and Tamara. I remember somebody was like, you need to I want to show Tia and Tamara these lyrics. And then I think it was either Tia or Tamara was like, oh, I want to hear the song that's about us. And he says to them, no, please don't listen to the song. Very much aware of his sexisms. His sexualization of Black women, very aware, told them, please don't listen to it, right? I don't want you to feel ashamed in any way. The next thing that he also does too is he makes the song, and we remember this, it was the song Crooked Smile. You know, this is a song that was supposed to be dedicated to Black women and girls. So what does he do? He sticks the imagery in Ayanna Stanley Jones's story of the 7-year-old, you know, child who was murdered while sleeping on her grandmother's couch in the actual video. But while he's saying these lyrics, he's also talking about Black women need to love themselves, but also trying to tell us how he's also consistently getting bitches. It sends a mixed message. You know what I'm saying? So he knows this. Additionally, he also made a song where he was so emotional. He was on one of the late night shows. You know, singing about being free in response to police brutality. Oh, we need to do this, that, and the third. Ryan Coogler had an initiative with Ava DuVernay and several other Black entertainers. I think it was back in like early 2016. He was so heartbroken by all the killings of Black people that he said, I can't perform this song. So he asked Anika Noni Rose to perform the song on his behalf. Meanwhile, what he did was he did the interview with Ryan Coogler, who congratulates him on being married. This man was like, nobody's supposed to know that. So J. Cole has a history, even sat down with Tavis Smiley to say, you know what? I didn't do the readings in college, but guess what? I'm doing them now. I'm reading Malcolm. I'm reading this. I'm reading that. You know, just went down a full list. You mean to tell me that this man hasn't done anything? But I think partially, part of me knows, we all know this is about sexism. We know this is about misogynoir. But I'd be willing to bet that some of this is also about money, and this is also about capitalism, and this is also about the fact that we're having a really serious conversation about abolition right now in this moment. And if we keep poking and prodding, we have to, like, because of what No Name is doing, it's literally taking the veil and the blanket and the sheets off of everyone. And so that means if we're talking to No Name about abolition, then that means we're going to have to start talking to Cole and Kendrick and the rest of them. And they don't need that. So the easiest scapegoat is to say, I'm sorry, I don't read. I can't read. Because look at what's happening. Who is actually asking J. Cole the questions?
Right.
Who's actually talking to J. Cole about abolition right now?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So, yeah. Mm-mm.
Woo. Well, y'all going. I'm loving it. So No Name has apologized. She released an apology via Twitter, and a lot of folks were, understood it. I know me and Zalika, we had a conversation, like we kind of understood her reason for it, but the difference was night and day, because J. Cole said that even when the girl started eating his ass up on Twitter, he responded and said, well, he did a little damage control from what I've seen, and say I'm still standing. That's definitely what it was. I still standing in my word. Like, although y'all, I know my ass is wrong, I'm still standing in my shit. Versus No Name is literally coming out saying, you know what, I'm taking away from the conversation, and I shouldn't have engaged in that, in like how I did. But it's just,
Now the point around No Name's apology and her the fact that she even felt the need to apologize to this nigga is also, I think is the hot button.
Mm-hmm.
But her apology came on the heels of her song. Am I right? She released the rebuttal song 33. Very short and simple. Her song is half as long as Cole's, and it had double the content and double the context, which is and I tweeted this. I'm like, her song is the exact labor of Black feminism. Because what folks were saying was, and look, No Name released a diss track back, or a rebuttal, and it recentered the issues. And so if you read her lyrics, like in the first verse, she goes, I saw a demon on my shoulder. It's looking like patriarchy. Like scrubbing blood off the ceiling and bleaching another carpet. How my house get haunted. Why toy and body don't embody all the life she wanted. A baby just 19, I know I dream all Black. I seen her everything, immortalizing tweets all caps. They say they found her dead. So like, she comes out reminding us that the internet should be focused on Toyin Salau and should be focused on the seriousness of the moment. She talks about George Floyd in here. And then in verse 3, she really breaks it down and she says, yo, but little did I know all my reading would be a bother. It's trans women being murdered, and this is all he can offer. And this is all y'all receive. Distracting from the convo with organizers, they talking about abolishing the police and the New World Order. We democratizing Amazon. We burn down borders. This a new vanguard. I'm the new vanguard. She said, I'm the new vanguard.
Look.
I think part of it, no, go ahead, Deshaun, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I think part of it, though, is I know a lot of people said No Name shouldn't have apologized, but I don't think that No Name was necessarily apologizing for what she said. I think it was more so because I think she understands the cult of celebrity.
Yes.
And I think that is mostly what she's answering for and answering to. And what I appreciated about it, she elaborated today when she was just talking about her ego, like just the ego in itself. And sometimes we just have to constantly be doing those check-ins with ourselves. Even if our intentions are, well-meaning, sometimes we can get caught up in that moment. And I think I hate that Cole even placed her in a position for her to have to do this. Because if this was like another time, another place, it would have just been another regular rap beef.
Right.
But I think sometimes, and I mean, forgive me, I don't know how people are going to feel about it, but I think with No Name and other celebrities, even as they're trying to unlearn, it's done so publicly, that there are moments where it does sort of detract from other things. When you're learning information, it's good to share. But when you're just like a kind of a few months in and you're doing that sort of work so publicly, you do kind of have a responsibility to make sure that you're constantly putting the people at the center. And that is very hard to do when you're a celebrity. She's getting even more popular now since before the No Name Book Club. And I think she's starting to see that between the conversations where she talked about the Minnesota Freedom Fund, between some of the conversations where she's been talking about theory and other things. I think she's taking a step back and she's saying, you know what? I want to figure out a way to decenter myself, recenter the politic, but also like, I'm here to rap because that's what I do.
Right.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. I think with No Name and her apology, I felt very split between what you were saying, Zalika, and T, what you just offered too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I respected it because I think, for one, that's something that we haven't really ever seen, where a celebrity is like, this is a really important moment, and right now, by engaging this back and forth, I am even inadvertently like distracting us from a larger conversation that is more important in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the other part of me is like, I didn't feel like it was a distraction.
Right.
I think that the only people who were quote unquote distracted were the ones who were never paying attention, and those were J. Cole's fans.
Come on now.
I think that
mm-hmm.
I think that anyone who was paying close attention to what she was offering, right, like, could not have been distracted, because what she was offering, even in the song, like T just said, was pointing us back to the moment, pointing us back to the conversation. And I think that people are so, it's so funny because like, I'm feeling a bunch of different feelings that both of y'all just named. Like, so to Zalika's point, I think she really does know like the cult of celebrity. I think that she really is fully aware of what her celebrity status, even as a person who's not an A-list celebrity, means, because people were so caught up in this beef, not because it was substantial or it was like a brilliant showdown between two conscious rappers, right? But because it was a rap beef between two celebrity rappers where people had faves and wanted to know how it was going to end, right? It was a less eventful Drake versus Meek, or a less eventful Cardi versus Nicki. And it allowed people to engage in this rap beef yet again, without having to pay attention to the substance of the actual beef. And I think to that end, I fully understand and respect her apologizing, and naming that, even if not explicitly so. But I just think that, so often, and I know that I'm sure there have been tons of other Black women who have said this. I haven't been online to read any of it, but I'm sure it's been said. But I think so often Black women are, forced into having to apologize for things they weren't wrong for. Forced to having to apologize for having an opinion. Forced to have to apologize for responding to aggression with aggression, and it wasn't even aggressive. Her response wasn't aggressive. Her response wasn't mean. It wasn't malicious. It was, I'm defending myself from this man who is choosing to decenter the movement and center his own self and his own feelings of insecurity. And I'm responding to that because I have a right to. And she does have every single right to respond to a nigga who wants to attack her for reading. Like, and it reminds me so much of every fucking conversation that, and Zalika, I know you know, and Justin, I know you know, and T, you learning more and more as your following count grows. Niggas just want to argue with you online just to argue. Like, niggas will know that you've done all the readings, know that you have been at the forefront of all these things happening, know that you've committed yourself to learning more and engaging in this theory, engaging in what it means to, to be a part of this conversation, a part of this discipline, and will still argue you down just because you did the reading and they didn't. Right. And it's like, are y'all okay? Like, if you want to do the reading, baby, let's do the reading. I'll even make myself available to you to do that reading with you. And I believe that that's something that No Name would do for J. Cole or anyone.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if right now, like, that happened before that.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if
I wouldn't either.
Something tells me it wasn't about that tweet, and I'm going to just leave it at that.
No, I agree. Because for one, it was so random. It popped up out of nowhere. Like, literally, it was a random ass thing where J. Cole's like, well, I'm just going to drop this song. And because the tweet, if I remember correctly, the tweet was at least a week old. It wasn't a recent tweat. Like,
matter of fact, I'm gonna pull the tweet up.
Yeah, like it had. I don't think it was it was no less than a week old. So it's like
something happened behind the scenes.
It had to. Like, you sat with this, got upset about it more and more, maybe, or somebody kept bringing it to your attention, or maybe your niggas kept hitting you up like, oh, you see this No Name chick, like she holding it down online, like she making sure that she really doing blah 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 blah. And instead of humbling yourself and saying, hey, well, maybe I need to, be the nigga that my following has asked me to be the nigga that my fans have prompted me up to be. And I think that is my biggest issue with men in general, but with male celebrities in particular, is that they're propped up to be these leaders that they know they cannot fill the shoes of, that they know they don't have the qualifications to fulfill. And instead of telling their fans that, instead of being honest about who they are, where they stand, right, they lean into that to get the sales, to get the attention, to get the affirmations that they don't deserve, right? And then you have moments like this where the people who actually deserve the attention and the affirmations, who actually have done the work to get us to the other side, are the ones you want to go up against, because now you feel like your position that you did not earn is being challenged.
Now,
so the tweet that this was a tweet. Poor Black folks all over the country are putting their bodies on the line in protest for our collective safety, and y'all favorite top selling rappers not even willing to put a tweet up. Niggas' whole discographies be about Black plight, and they nowhere to be found. Now, in this screenshot, I don't have the exact date that she tweeted this, but I'm thinking it was around March or April, if I'm not mistaken. I for some reason I think it was. Do you think it was earlier than? Was it last month?
It was.
I mean, the quarantine has made everything.
Yeah.
I don't make sense. But I wouldn't doubt if it came out in March and COVID made us miss it, or April and COVID.
Right. Because I saw it. I did see
it too.
Yeah.
So do y'all think y'all saw it recently, or?
No, I saw it when she first tweeted it. I just
feel like it was more recent because the uprising has been more recent.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what it was. Yep.
That might be my brain.
A month ago when the protests first started in Minneapolis and everywhere else.
Okay, so that's how I'm feeling. I appreciate that.
I don't think it was in response to COVID. I think it was in response to the protests.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense. I don't know why I would say it was March, but it feels like it's been months. Like,
it does.
I mean, what a month this week has been. Like,
no,
yes. My God.
I mean, they showed the fan on Monday, and I feel like it was 2 weeks ago.
But J. Cole is a liar. I'm sorry, J. Cole is a liar. It couldn't have been that tweet. It just couldn't have been.
Now that you bring,
I don't think he ever confirmed that. I don't think he ever said it was that tweet that led him there. I think his fans said that was what was happening.
Right, that's true.
And so I think I absolutely agree with you, Zalika, because neither of them have confirmed what led to that moment, but both of them knew apparently that that each of them were being talked about for that to be like a back and forth in the first place. So something definitely had to have happened in the back end of things that led to that. Because when I read her tweet, I didn't think of J. Cole because I know J. Cole. I thought of Kendrick too.
Yeah,
I thought of a lot of that
Black power shit. That nigga.
I'm like, sweetie, nobody uses your shit as a protest anthem.
Nobody.
And I'm like, I thought of every nigga in Atlanta who ain't open up their purse, but that's just me thinking.
I didn't originally see the tweet, but I will say this: I've been in enough Twitter beefs or whatever you want to call it, Twitter fights or whatever the fuck, to know the majority of that shit that happens like that is because there's some shit going on behind the scenes that a lot of people are not privy to. And some people like add shit and make it bigger than what it is. Like fans will start saying shit and then it turns into this whole thing where it's like, no, I'm just talking. That's why sometimes when I send tweets, I'm very direct of what I'm talking about, because I can be talking about some shit and then somebody who I bumped heads with 3 years ago, oh, he taking shots at him. But it's not, girl, I'm just having a conversation. I had to argue somebody, this is very petty, on Twitter yesterday because Jordan was gathering, I cannot think of that boy's name, and I'm going to be very messy, but he was just saying that white folks get shit that black folks don't when it comes to queer shit. And the person that Jordan was, yes, it was a response of Raven Simone marrying that white woman, and he was tweeting some anti-black shit saying that, oh girl, like white folks do a better job of understanding, you know, queer shit and gay shit than black folks. So I don't blame y'all. Y'all ain't ready for that conversation. So Jordan ate them up. Now the thing is, I know that person who tweeted that bullshit. I almost had them on the podcast episode. I almost like worked with them. I introduced them to some folks to help them build their brain and get their shit together. But I was hesitant. We've been around them. Remember the Grammy night, and they said, and they was agreeing with J-Lo doing the Motown fucking shit. I said, I think
I'm not gonna say his name, but I remember his name.
Yeah, I think this nigga got some issues, and I don't want that shit to come up on my stuff. So I tweeted that, and I said, I'm so glad I never had him on any of my platforms. And somebody thought I was talking about some other folks, and it was like, who are you talking about? I said, girl, I literally retweeted him getting dragged, and the next tweet was me saying this. Like, follow along, bitch. I'm giving you the fucking breadcrumbs. Like, goddamn. But that's how shit works. Folks will find some shit and then they will build this whole story. But I would not be surprised if something else was going on between both of them. And I also have a question for you all. How do you think this would be if No Name was lighter skin?
Oh,
now her value, first of all, she wouldn't have been as
disposable. Woof.
And I feel like she would have had a bigger fan base that is not just exclusively my organizing Black queer ass community riding for her in these same ways. And we can never divorce how colorism definitely shows up in all things we do.
Yeah, I think, and this is not a critique of Cardi because everyone knows Cardi's my girl, but I think that it's clear that like that the color of her skin, her complexion really matters in that regard, because Cardi, as much as I love her politic, is not as radical as No Name, or is not as far left as No Name is, right? Like Cardi, she will name capitalism. She will talk about like, you know, being from the hood and why niggas from the hood matter, and she'll talk about why rioting is important. And like she has a great politic, but she's not an anti-capitalist in the way that No Name is, but she has the platform.
Right.
She has a much bigger platform, and she was able to hold both of those politics at once because of her light-skinnedness, her mixed raceness, because of her ability to move in, out, and through just being like, you know, hypersexual woman who is thoughtful about politics, but also is very, very, very vocal about her own personal shit, right? Like, I think her being able to hold all those truths at once definitely play a role in that, and is why someone like No Name wouldn't be able to be nearly as public about her full self, because my fear really for No Name is that she'll become the movement mammy, and that people will make her this, and I don't know that I would call her dark skinned per se, but this darker skinned, and she's not necessarily fat either, but this darker skinned, larger Black woman who becomes the one person that people can look up to have a radical politic within celebrity, right? And she becomes the movement mammy, and I'm nervous for the moment that she does fail again and is not given nearly as much grace because of it. And so that is to say that, yeah, like I think it would be a very fair comparison to draw between her and Cardi, because they are the only celebrities that I can think of that have nearly as similar politics, with very, very, very different fan bases. And I'm a fan of Cardi.
Yeah, but that's
we know that in the middle,
right? But we know that that's also the downside of social media too. It's like every little thing about No Name is being publicly documented. Yep. The growth, and so unfortunately, it's like we almost get to measure it in this really gross way. And I think one thing that's interesting about No Name too is like what I've liked about, you know, her lyrics is like she'll talk about coloniality and she'll talk about pussy. She'll go back and forth, but she also knows, unfortunately, she has to be calculated in a particular way. There's a particular way where even down to her clothing.
Yes.
I'm sure she likes and enjoys her clothing, but I know that there's a certain way that I know she knows she can't really, really dress.
Right.
If she wants to get her point across.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that.
Yes. No, I agree. I was gonna say I think that like it's different for thinking about Rhapsody, right? Like I think she loves her aesthetic. I think that's really true to who she is. Rhapsody is very, what you see is what you get from her.
Yep.
I don't know. I agree with you though. I don't think that that's true for No Name completely. I think I think she is being her full self, and also I think that if given the space to, she wouldn't travel down the same road as Rhapsody in the way that she kind of has, because I don't know that her performance is nearly as completely authentic as Rhapsody's is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. No, I feel that, because I'm really thinking about, I mean, the good news is at least somebody like Rhapsody was like, there's room for all the girls, so to speak. There's room for all of us. And with No Name, she'll literally tell you, yes, I want to talk about, you know, giving this pussy. I want to talk about working this pussy. I want to talk about, you know what I'm saying, working this pussy while dismantling the patriarchy. She said it. But people still don't let her have that. Sure. They don't even let her have the sexuality that she tries to put forth and put on the table.
Yep.
I have a question for the panel, and I'm so glad we have Zalika and Deshawn here to wrestle with this. Right. Because all of y'all have named that it's this unspoken thing that may be driving this. And it may be some deep-seated personal beef. He might have hopped in the DMs and she was like, read first. I don't know. Like, we weren't there. But what we are cognizant of is the moment. And for me, very, very similar to my original points about what it feels like to be a Black queer femme navigating these spaces that are hyper-masculine, spaces that are spaces that cling to tradition and shit, and you're trying to forge an actual radical revolutionary move. In many of the same, it's kind of two-pronged, in many of the same ways that our movement is wrestling with the traditional versus what us young queer niggas are pushing. Hip hop is in the same space. And it may not be drawn across those lines. And I'm asking y'all this, or speaking this with y'all, because I know y'all studied the music and y'all do the hip hop work. And yeah, I mean, as a trap scholar, why would I not engage this hip hop moment? But it seems to me too that hip hop is itself in a crisis, and one could argue that it's always been in, or is an absent of crisis, or is always discourse in hip hop. But I feel like because the movement moment that has gotten so many people on the abolitionist tip, the anti-capitalist tip, who look at, as we've seen in our city, you know, T.I. and Killer Mike as, we wouldn't follow them niggas. And the fact that they're rappers and that came from our neighborhood don't fucking matter no more. You got to offer me more than that. You have the leg of people that look at celebrities like that. And then you have the ones who are still willing to extend grace because they're faves. Because they say, well, that's a hood nigga, so I wouldn't have expected him to read, when we see that there are rappers who were raised hood niggas who do read. And who do give help and who do open purses, and et cetera, who do the work that folks on the ground are asking be done at this moment, who aren't capitalizing at this moment. And I feel like this is coming from me from a place of me being frustrated with hip hop, not realizing how revolutionary it already is without making it a movement moment. Like, we don't need you to show up at a protest and shoot a music video to prove that your work is revolutionary. But what your hip hop work is doing is giving us affirmation in otherwise ways of being. But do y'all think that the present split between the two sort of factions, like the anti-capitalist niggas who are out here riding with No Name and No Name is building with us, versus the ones who are trying to grapple with letting go of celebrity being the vanguard, like the point that No Name makes at the end of song 33, we are a new vanguard, I am the new vanguard, that to me signal a little bit more than just I'm building in the streets, but she's trying to do something that is inherently Black femme with 2 M's, feminist, about hip hop in this moment. She's trying to make a shift to say we can still be hip hop niggas and run our community while also actually being in community, because nobody has access to our community like hip hop niggas from the community do. And so I'm just wondering what y'all think about, like, the way shit's dividing right now.
You know, as you were talking, I was thinking a little bit about Queen Latifah and Moni Love and the whole, like, you know, ladies first, native tongues, you know, ideation of things. And I was kind of like, it's interesting because, to your point, T, I have this like growing concern and fear, and this is, I hope that it addresses and answers your question, that in our push and our move toward, I guess, moving toward this new vanguard, that the movement might start to respectabilize itself again in a different kind of way, because hip hop already has that split of what can happen and what can't happen. The bitches and the hoes and the women, the hood niggas and the conscious niggas. I'm like, can we get like a little, like, if we could press a button, can it randomize so we can kind of get a little, not the respectability, but can we get a little bit of everything? And I just wonder, like, because you're talking about Black femme identity, like, what would happen if we would welcome a No Name or a person that looks like Cardi to do that work at the same time? I don't know if I've necessarily seen a movement that has necessarily been able to do both yet, particularly when we're looking at hip hop. We haven't seen it. I think what is interesting, we talk about the Blaxploitation era of things. We know that the Blaxploitation era of film was a sort of bastardization of the Black Power movement of the late 60s and 70s. What we also know about that is we know that it was also a play on what Huey P. Newton and others are talking about with the lumpen proletariat. Now, we know that Newton gets it wrong by saying that it's going to be these people, like, specifically, because it's going to take all kinds. But I do think that we're returning to this notion of lumpen proletariat culture, where we're talking about the hoe. But the only difference is we're Xing out the pimp in the discussion. Hip hop has been notorious for talking about the pimp figure so long and so often that all the pimp niggas who were in, you know what I'm saying, in hip hop are not having their place anymore.
Right.
A pimp can't be no pimp without no hoe. Right. And they're losing all their hoes, so to speak. Look at Snoop Dogg just last year, all upset talking about y'all need to cover up your bodies. What did Murray Miller Young talk about in Whole Theory? How people like Snoop Dogg revolutionized and made literally the sex worker and the video vixen come together so that hip hop had a new layer. Right. But this is all like a nod to the Blaxploitation era of things. Yeah. So if we're getting back to this, and if now we're decentering the pimp and we're letting the hoe do her work, we might actually have a new frame of abolitionist thinking, even in hip hop, if we would be willing to allow that. But I don't know if we could, because it has to be still packaged in native tongues, ladies first, sort of rhetoric.
Yes. I love that so much. I love that because
girl, listen, I'm about to get my little church blanket because baby,
I love that, and it made me think. It makes me think about this new era of women rappers, right? And I think this is part of the importance of a Cardi B, because she is the first woman rapper to, aside from, Iggy Azalea, who I, whatever, like to have come up and without like being part of a major rap group that was full of men as being the first lady, right? Nicki Minaj came up, under Young Money. Kim with, Mafia, like all these different groups that people came up with. Eve came up with DMX and folks, like all these folks that people came up with as a rap group. Cardi came up as Cardi, and she was in relationship to, the QCs and the Migos and whatnot, but she wasn't a part of any official group. This is Cardi B, the brand. This is Cardi B, the rapper, by herself. And now you get to have a Megan Thee Stallion and a Tierra Whack and a Rico a Nasty and a No Name and even a Rhapsody who came up before Cardi, right? Like all these women who get to be rappers without being associated with a group of men. And I think that perfectly goes to your point where the pimps are getting X'd out quickly, and now the hoes get to do their point. They get to do their work however they want to, whenever they want to, however they want to show up for it, right? And I love that. Like, I think that's so important, and I agree. I think that if we are going to get to a point where the hoes can do their work without the pimps, right? There has to be an actual acknowledgement of the fact that the pimps are no longer there, right? Like, and I think that that's what's missing. I think right now, because women really are on top of the rap game, because women really are running hip hop, right? Like where you get a Beyonce on a Savage remix, right? Or where you get even a Nicki Minaj on a Say So remix, right? Where, like, because before that wasn't happening, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that pimps were running the game, right? I think that a lot of why Nicki Minaj doesn't have those collaborations or didn't have those collaborations was because of the era that she came up in. So the fact that we get to have these moments now, I think says a lot about the fact that the girls are running shit, but someone has to acknowledge it. It has to be said. It has to be stated that this is what's happening, right? Like that this is the vanguard, right? That this is what we are committed to the hoes leading the revolution, the girls leading the moment, the girls having their moment separate from any and all men, right? And doing so unapologetically. And I think I'm excited about that possibility, because to me that says that there is a possibility for someone who looks like Cardi B with No Name's Politic to exist in one space, right? Separate from celebrity, but in proximity to celebrity enough to make an impact on celebrity, right? To be able to do away with celebrity in a way, or to make an impact on celebrity enough to move us towards an abolition of celebrity, right? And I think that we are moving towards that direction because, as Zalika so beautifully put, like, the pimp niggas is out, right? We don't need a DMX to get an Eve. We don't need a Biggie to get a Kim. We don't need a Wayne to get a Nicki, right? We got the girls to be the girls to do their own shit right now, and that's what they're going to do. And I love that, and I think that No Name, to me, in a lot of ways, and maybe I don't even think this is purposeful for her, but she seems to be taking us back to the moments where we did have the Queen Latifahs and the Moni Loves and the Queen Latifahs, all these folks, right? The Yo-Yos, all these folks, but she's taking us back to the origins of hip hop, right? Like where Queen and them come in is not necessarily the origins. This is the origins for women in hip hop, where they're making their own lane. But it feels like No Name is saying, I'm going to do a step above that and take us back to the beginning, where hip hop was community, where hip hop was communal, where hip hop was about all of us. And I'm going to do this as a Black woman, as a lyricist, as someone who's committed to our community and committed to hip hop in a way that does not celebritize us, that does not make us people who are, you know, automatically prompted up to be these pop stars, but is committed to a communal politic where I'm centering the people that I'm writing rhymes for, and writing rhymes about.
Right. Deshaun.
Period.
What you say, just about, I didn't even think about that, like how all of them came into the industry. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to say being owned by a man, but like they did like present them as property though.
They were gatekept.
They did come forth like property, but there is something very sexual about how it's all packaged together, because in a roundabout way, it almost is presented like one large gangbang.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like you have to fuck these different levels to prove yourself to then be able to access the agency to fuck who you would like.
Right.
Didn't Rick Ross bring it up when he was talking about bringing a female rapper up? Like he said that they gonna have to.
Right. But even if it's not actually happening, there's something about the imagery that says like she's for all of us.
Yeah.
She's for everybody.
And didn't Lil Wayne joke about sleeping with Nicki Minaj and wanting to sleep with Nicki Minaj? Woo, come on. Connecting. I've loved this conversation. I loved it. T, did you want to add on anything before we wrap up and move on to the next thing?
I think they answered my question greatly, and I would love to continue this conversation. I just want to add, like, the last point, like, what they brought up for me, what Zalika and Deshaun brought up for me with their points is just, like, that what is it? And I think back to Zalika's point about the role of social media and the internet and watching things sort of move in this way, a Cardi B is allowed to happen because the internet provincialized a space for a hoe like Cardi B. Cardi B's most famous moment prior to Love and Hip Hop was a hoe never gets cold. And like the politics that make you say, I'm gonna go out with my titties out in the middle of fucking New Year's or winter, and because a hoe never gets cold, because a hoe is about this work, because a hoe is going around whatever. What the fuck is a coat to a hoe? Because I'm gonna hit that block. And so I think we live in an era where we have the choice to not just be fed the J. Coles. You know, like back in the day when it was Tupac and all we got was Tupac, we thought Tupac was the epitome of what it meant to be that woke conscious rapper leading a vanguard revolution. What the internet has done is gave us space for a Cardi B and a No Name to say Cardi B's giving us whole fucking politics and whole work. And then No Name is saying, maybe I should build with community. Maybe that cute Black-owned used bookstore in Sweet Auburn in Atlanta could be a cute place to have a meetup of minds that can help me not just radicalize myself, but radicalize my base.
Right.
And to have that power and the foresight. Zalika, that point about like that whole work, and I would not spell it with an O, I would spell it with an E and a Q. That whole work, like it is what it is. It's that labor that goes unseen by the pimp because it's not legible labor, right? No Name's work can never be legible to a J. Cole, and that is the perfect, yes, that's how you put it.
I love that.
With that being said,
girl, top scholars on the call.
Listen, after all of that, we're gonna take a quick break.